Well, here we are under the bottom of the car. That's where the two sensor plugs in right there. The little plug. Just a single wire in this car. Then this is where the end of the Y pipe goes on. And the catalytic converter right there. I got the clamp right there. I don't know how well this is on camera, but try to show you the inside of the converter. The honeycomb and everything is really in good shape, but there's some slightly large carbon flakes on the sides of the steel pipe that go before it, which I will clean out. And as well, I have to remove the front drive shaft to have enough clearance. See where it goes on. I've just disconnected the front U-joint that goes to the diff. Because this part right here interferes with the flange of the manifold and you can't get it out. The drive shaft out, you got those two bolts right there, and the two at the bottom, and you got the two metal pieces that come out and the U-joint is released. Again, just be careful not to let the bearing caps fall off and then your needle bearings go everywhere. And you just have to spend time putting them back together, or you'll miss one and the drive shafts will be loose. Now to remove the bracket on the right side, you just need to remove the air conditioning compressor. You now need to degas the system. You just unbolt the compressor from the bracket and just set it off to the side. And then to get the compressor out, you have three 14mm bolts. One here, and one in the bottom right there. And goes the clutch connecting wire. Comes off just like that. Now these bolts here, you can see we have the flange right here, the nut. You have a flat spot, and if you don't have the flat spot against the clutch, you can see the bolt doesn't come out. You gotta get it nice and flat against the clutch and the bolt comes out. Then so I got the compressor loose, just sitting on there. There are the three 14mm studs to hold it in. Now this bracket has a bolt back there in the corner, and a nut right there, as well as the other bolts right behind here. To get to it, I have to take off the bottom radiator hose, which I have to drain the coolant, which I don't feel like doing that just quite yet, so I guess we'll start taking off the various electronic and vacuum lines and stuff up the intake manifold. And I just take lots of pictures of where all the connector and all the vacuum hoses go, and make sure you plug everything back in where it went, and it should run just fine. Then we'll remove the distributor. There's a special way to do that, because you don't want to just pull it back out. You need to set it on top dead center so the timing is correct once you reassemble it, so it runs properly. Got the aluminum bracket off that the air conditioning compressor bolts onto. And then right there, you got a 2mm bolt there, two here, and a stud in there. The AC compressor hanging off nicely, sitting there. All the intake manifolds came off. 11 by 12 14mm. Front ones are studs. This one. And the other ones are just regular bolts. And all the various wires and vacuum hoses disconnected. That doesn't show very good because it's in the sun, but you get the point. What the valley looks like. So these black coolant ports are supposed to be blocked off, but so this one here popped out. I don't know if this is from me removing it or it's been popped out earlier and just sitting in there for a while, but anyway. Here's to take the rocker covers off and remove the rocker arms and push rods and take the heads off. Here the valve covers off. Just the left one. I got the original gasket on it. Got a bit of sludge. This one's even worse. You can see this one's, the gasket's been replaced, an orange one on it. Just remove the rocker arms, 16mm bolt. Got a bolt labeled with holes so you can put them in and put them back correctly. It's very important to put them back in their same places because they have worn in. If you put them in differently, they won't wear properly. Got all the rocker arms off, as well as the spark plugs and the push rods. To loosen the head, and just go by the manual. There's the tightening sequence, and just you reverse that. Generally do it from 3 times. The heads, with the rocker and push rods removed. Head bolts are 16mm. Got the left head off. As you can see, it's blown on 2 cylinders, number 3 and number 5. Number 1 is okay. You can see it's all carboned up like it should be. And you got 3 and 5. They're very clean. That's because when it was leaking coolant into the cylinders and combustion happening, it steam cleaned the cylinders out. The bores seem to be in pretty good shape. Here's the head. It's the front. It's the back. It's going on these 2 cylinders here. Seems to be in pretty good shape. I will clean it, pull the valves out, relap the valves, inspect it for cracks. Here's the head gasket. I don't know if this happened when I was pulling it off or kind of already separated with it. Still in the car. I think it blew like right around here. You can see where the cooling hole right there is. Right there there's a green dried up coolant, so sort of leaking from here to here internally. It just blew right there. There and a good blown. There's another spot on the somewhere right there possibly as well. That's for number 5. Still can't figure out where number 3 could have blown. The head gasket looks, the firing ring's looking really good shape on number 3. And then again, it takes very little for it to start leaking, so. I don't think it's a cracked head because this is not a Vortex. The Vortex are known for having cracked heads, but it's the older version of it. It's a throttle body injection. It just has the regular heads on it, so. Now that's all that's left to do is pull off the right head. The head's not leaking, but since this one went, might as well change that one because it's all taken apart. And just to pull the head off where I'm at now, it's very easy, just 13 bolts and the head lifts right off versus putting it back together and then having the right head leak a few months later. And I have to pull it back apart and ruin the intake manifold gaskets and other things as well, so do both of them now, do it properly. Also looking on the head on the number 5 cylinder, you can see where it's blown on the head gasket right here. You can see where the firing ring seals. It's all nice, and then right here, you have from here to here, slightly darker spot where it's been blown coolant out from one of these holes, or maybe even both of them. Again, number 3, I still can't really figure out where the leak was, but anyway. There's also a 14mm bolt on the back of the head that's hard to see. It goes right here. You have some wires going to it. You have a ground wire that goes from this bolt here that I've removed completely. And you have this one as well, so I'm sure to undo that before you pull the head off or you'll tear your wiring harness. Got the right side head off. This side was not blown. As you can tell by the pistons are all nice and carboned up. Like the 2 on this side are steam cleaned from the leak. Here's the head. Fairly sludged up. I got a coolant sensor right there. These heads are quite heavy even though they look quite small. I'm guessing around 20 kilos. Looks pretty good. Here's the head gasket. I tore it on the back there, lifting it off, but anyway, it's quite nasty. So now all that's left for the disassembly is to drain the oil, and that'll be it. Then I'll be taking the heads apart, pull the valves out, do a valve job, clean the carbonate and inspecting for cracks, and then clean the block off and stuff and put it back together. Also, when the heads are off, make sure to spray the cylinders down with some sort of oil, a liquid wrench, or something like that, just keep them from rusting. Now to drain the oil out, so 14mm on the drain plug. Quite nasty. Got a lot of water in it, antifreeze. Here's a better view of what came out. That's water, oil, and sludge. So that's it for the disassembly. Now to move on to the next part, which is doing the valve job and inspecting the heads and block for cracks and cleaning everything. Then we'll put it back together.